Welcome back to another episode of the Slang Self Doubt Podcast. It's your girl Felicia Wallace. As always, I'm starting off the show thanking all of the listeners. To anybody who this is their first, third, fifth, if you are a new listener to the show, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey. And I don't know how you got here, whether someone shared something with you or you were actually intentionally looking for a podcast about self doubt, and you found me. I am truly, truly grateful. So I really want y'all to know how grateful I am. I know, I think that a lot of times, sometimes when we go through or we're doing things, we tend to forget. To thank people. And for me, this is not no slight work. Like, I'm not off my, like, I just been doing this so long that it's second nature. I mean, it is, but I'm still grateful that people are listening, and I'm grateful because you have choices. So I'm grateful that I'm one of your choices. To my day ones, thank y'all for being there from the beginning. I appreciate y'all support. It does, I keep telling y'all, y'all's love and y'all support does not go unnoticed. I just ask that, if any part of these shows, even if it's a minute, I don't care what it is, if it resonates with you, continue to share, continue to repost, continue to just give me feedback and let me know that this is still something that you're listening to, and it's, making a difference. So like I said, always thank you, thank you, thank you. This week's wins. So this week has been interesting for me. I'll talk about it a little bit more when we get. Actually, no, because today's topic isn't relevant to it at all. So I guess I'll talk about it now. So one of the things is that for my wins of this week is that this past Friday, I participated in a actually not this past Friday, but the Friday before last, I participated in a book tour. And so I usually record these in the middle of the week. So like today is Wednesday or Thursday. I can't remember. The day's just, it's in the middle of the week. So when I recorded it last week, it was in the middle of the week. So I hadn't done it yet. But I participated in a book tour for the owner of Doing All Things. I will put her link in the show notes so you guys can go support her, listen to the playback. But she wrote a book. And so she reached out to me and asked me if I'd be willing to read it and then do this book tour. And I was just like, sure, and I was like, what exactly is it? And, she was like, you would just give a review of the book or whatever have you. I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. And so when the day comes, like, I've known about it for weeks, right? But when the day comes is when, like, it all hits me, right? And so self doubt hits me, imposter syndrome hits me. She's telling me like, okay, these are the times that we do all of this stuff, and then she's like, this is what I wrote about you. And so I'm reading like this bio of me, and I was just like, me. um and it was one of them things where I was like, oh, like imposter syndrome, like really, really, it hit me hard, right? Because even doing this and being, doing this journey and talking to you all and walking the walk, like for real, it still sometimes it's so like unbelievable, but that this is where I actually am, right? And I get into these moods where I'm like, oh my gosh, Sean, like, are you sure? Like, it's like I almost revert back to the beginning. But with that being said, once now I'm at the place that I recognize it, right? And so I even in during this weekend, like getting some work done, I actually had to reach out to a friend, and I was telling her something else. And so she was just like, she was asking me some questions, and I ended up having to say it again. Like, I don't know what's going on, but my imposter syndrome is starting to kick up. Like, I'm feeling unqualified, or I'm feeling and like I don't know what I'm doing, even though I do know, right? And it was in that moment that I literally had to just like, she definitely encouraged me, but after I talked to her, I had to just like go to God, and I had to pray and just ask him, like, what is going on? Like, what is it that I am missing? Like, why is this thing? And it really was like him telling me, like, you're like, I just keep telling y'all, like, when you level up, um, sorry, I need some water. I've told y'all before that when you level up, self-doubt will rear its ugly head. It will come back, and that doubt will just be, it doesn't look any different, right? It's not anything new, it's not anything clever. It's literally like just the same thoughts, like, what do you know, why are you trying to say you're the expert at this, right? But I know that God is pushing me forward, and I know what the next thing is. And because I know what the next thing is, that's the reason why it's getting to the point where, for me at that moment, it was like my doubt and my insecurities was starting to paralyze me. So I had to redirect, right? I had to say, okay, we're not going to do this, because previous times I'd find myself in that moment, and guess what I would do? I wouldn't do nothing, not a Nathan, nothing for like a week and a half, and then I'd be like, all right, now I feel better. And I the thing was is that I did it differently this time. This time I said it, and I said, imposter syndrome is kicking up for me. I just need to do one little thing, and so I did one thing, and once I did it, I was like, oh, okay, that's not bad. And then I started doing something else, and it wasn't like I wasn't at the point where I was like pushing through, like, because I feel like sometimes you can't push through, right? Sometimes you just gotta like let it do whatever it's going to do. But what I did was is I did things for me that reminded me that you are called to do this. You are absolutely supposed to do this, and don't let your doubt stop you from thinking that, right? And so participating in that book tour was something that reminded me that although I was there to support her, like, she valued my opinion, she valued my voice, she valued what I bought. Like, she shouted me out and saying, telling people to come follow me and this, that, and the third, and like what I'm doing. And it's like, God was making room for me. And my doubt and my fear cannot be bigger than the room that God is making. And so that is where my struggle is right now, of like minimizing my fear to the point that it doesn't um it doesn't affect where I'm going. Like, it's gonna go with me, because this is just, it is what it is. But I just don't want it to overshadow what it is that God is truly, truly trying to do. So that was a huge win for me, because like I said, the doubt was there, and I was mindful about how I showed up. But then also, like I said, throughout the week, I really, I'm at a place now where I can say, "Oh, I know what that is. That, like, that's imposter syndrome. It's literally, here it is. It's coming back." So I'm grateful for I'm grateful that I'm at a point now that it doesn't paralyze me. Like, that's a huge thing for me. Um, the other thing that I did, which was also, it was already on the schedule, right? And so I told y'all, when imposter syndrome kicks up, I legit be like, nah, I'm not going to do this. So I told y'all that I was doing clubhouses, and I do them twice a week now, on Sundays and Wednesdays. And so I did the Sunday one, and it was really good. And I had some new people come and show up, and same thing, I pray every week. And then the Wednesday one, which we just did, we talked about, which we'll talk about today, is how your self doubt shows up in your marriage. And that was another great conversation. And even in that moment, like, I was building my confidence, right? And so just in talking, not saying like, I'm not a marriage counselor, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a marriage relationship expert. I can only tell you what my views are and what I would do, and that's it. And someone had asked me a question in there, and I was just like, I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea. I don't know. I was like, the only thing I can tell you is what I've tried. I don't know if it'll work or not, but this is just my advice. And so then I realized that that's all I'm doing. It was like in that moment, like, God was showing me, like, all you're doing is showing up as your most authentic self. And so I just want to encourage anybody who is on their own journey to whatever it is that you're doing, whether or not it's entrepreneurship, whether it's not in, is being a wife, a girlfriend, a mom, a friend, whether or not you're leveling up in your job. Like, God has given you what you need to be able to do that thing for today. And that was another thing we talked about in one of the clubhouses, is that God gives you enough strength for today. You know what I'm saying? And what we're trying to do, well, at least for me anyway, is I'm trying to muster up all this strength to be able to carry me into next month or next year, or whatever the case may be. And the reality is that I have no idea what next month or next year is going to even hold. And so just being present and focusing on today helps me also rid myself of some of that self doubt and some of that imposter syndrome, because I know that I only he gives me enough for today, and reminding myself that means that I can handle today and I can handle what comes my way today. And like I said, that's an awareness that I did not have before, and so I am just super super grateful for that. The announcements for this week are the same as last week. You just heard me mention it. I've been doing clubhouses. So if you are on Clubhouse, join me on Sunday and Wednesdays at 1 p.m. And we're having just like brave and safe conversations. And I'm appreciative of every lady who has, and gentlemen, because sometimes we have gentlemen who come in. Um, every person who has joined in the conversation and have been vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? Because legit, we like strangers. Like half these, some of these people, they don't know me, right? They never even met me a day in their life, and they're sharing pieces of them that they probably would not otherwise share. And so, for me, I'm just grateful that God has given me the platform and the ability to be able to make people feel safe. So that, that's also a win. Okay, I'll take it. And then lastly, the announcement is about group coaching, and knowing that that launches on March 1st. And y'all, I do, and I think some of that has some of that is that insecurity and that self doubt and that imposter syndrome, and all of those things are coming up for me because the Lord is calling me to level up, y'all. I told y'all, and if I hadn't have said it right, I would have just procrastinated and pretended like it, and I would have been like, April, May, whatever. But God is calling me to move, and who, child. That's all I can say is who, child. It, it be a lot, bro. I know I be. Like if you feel like that you're in a space where nobody gets it, I get it. Trust me when I tell you, I totally get it. So last week we talked about self doubt in your relationship with God, and I hope that anything that I shared, I hope it was helpful to you. If it was, definitely let me know. Send me a DM or send me email at info@feliciawallace.com. I'd love to hear back from you guys in regards to these episodes, to know whether or not they're helpful. Because for me, I feel like I've said this over and over again that it's the identification. Like you have to identify what it is that is going on and where that self doubt is coming from and how it's showing up and all of those things. Because again, if you don't identify, you don't know what you're slaying. You're just swinging at bushes, right, or trees or air rather. Nothing. You're not doing nothing. So, um, yeah, I just really want, really would love you all's feedback. So last weekend, talking about how self-doubt shows up in our relationship with God, we talked about trust and the fact that knowing that God is all knowing and all powerful and can do all things. It is what our beliefs are, or what it is that causes us, our insecurities, that is causing us to feel like we can't trust him for the things that we want, the things that we need, and the things that we're comfortable with giving to him. We don't have no issues with that. It's the stuff that we, like I told you, for me, it's about control. Like, I want to be able to control the outcome. And so self-doubt comes in and wondering whether or not God can actually do, right? And so this week we're talking about how self-doubt shows up in your marriage or your relationships. And for me, it still boils back to insecurities. My insecurity about how I look or my worthiness or whatever have you. Like I didn't necessarily feel like I didn't feel my best, right? And I did not realize it probably until like the middle of my marriage. So I've been married 6 years. I'm going on 7 years. Dang, time flies, bruh. I'm going on 7 years. But yeah, I don't think I realized it until like I want to say probably at the start of this journey, like for real, like maybe like 2017, 2016. So it might have always been there. Clearly, it was always there. But I think me recognizing that my self doubt was showing up in my marriage was when this journey really started for me. And I was really intentional about the self awareness of kind of figure out like what it is that God wanted me to do and why I was showing up differently, or why I was doing things a certain type of way, why I couldn't receive fully what it is that my husband was saying to me, or whether why I. So one of the examples I gave earlier was like, for me, it was especially so in this season right now of, and I think I've shared this before, but if not, here we go. During this season of entrepreneurship, one of the things that when you're at home and you are, not necessarily your beginning stages, you're not bringing in any income, there is a sense of like guilt of like, dang, am I really contributing to this family, right? And so you're working and you're doing things, but in the back of my mind, I was really overcompensating in some things. Like, I felt like if I wasn't sitting at this computer and I wasn't emailing or doing recording episodes or looking like I was busy, right, that he would think that I wasn't doing any work, right? Well, the other thing that would come up is like, housework, for instance. So I hate cleaning with the passion. I don't know if it's because my mother used to make us clean. Like, she would come in the house and be like, "It don't smell clean in here," and I'd be like, "What? I don't even know. You want it to smell like ammonia? Like, what does that mean?" But it was clean, right? And so, my husband is like, he's a clean person, right? Like, he'd be like, washing baseballs. Like, who? Don't nobody even look down there. Like, that's not me. Like, I don't pay attention to stuff like that, right? But anyway, so when he would be like, he'd just ask a simple thing like, "Hey, you think you could clean the bathrooms today?" For me, because I was already feeling guilty about being at home and looking like I was working, when he would ask me to do something that I necessarily didn't really want to do, because in my eyes, I didn't equate that to like, that's also working, right? Like, you keeping the house. I didn't equate that to that. I would catch an attitude and I would be, defensive, and, I got all this stuff to do and this, that, and the third. And he would be like, "Okay, I'm not saying anything to you." Like, it would turn into like this big old thing. And it wasn't until I had to just really like come to grips with myself, like, "Girl, why are you acting like that?" And it was my own insecurity of him thinking that I wasn't doing anything. And now, in my eyes, I'm over here working in this way and he's asking me to do this over here. But I feel like that you're asking me to do more. I'm already doing this and I'm already doing that. And, I already feel this type of way. And so in my mind now, and I've said this before, that like, I heard something or read something from Brene Brown when she said, like, "This is how I feel, but the story I'm telling myself is." And so the story I was telling myself was that, he wants more from me because he wants to see me doing all of these things. And it's because I'm at work, and, he's sacrificing to, stay to work, and he let me come home. And so it's my own guilt, right? But I was putting that on him, and it really was just like, "Nah, I just need you to clean the bathroom or the kitchen or the vacuum or whatever. Um, and not make it feel like my not make it seem like he was coming down on me. It wasn't like, I know that it wasn't coming from that place, but my own guilt and my own insecurity about how I was showing up now, being at home, was it changed me, right? And so being mindful of that, of knowing that was how I was showing up. The question then was coming to this whole thing of like, how is that affecting your marriage, right? Because if I'm showing up with my insecurities and I'm doubting, and I mentioned before, on an earlier episode, that like my self-worthiness and questioning about, the whole Bell's palsy thing, and the fact that my husband never said anything about it, but I was being doubtful, like, how is that affecting my marriage if I'm legit like, if he tells me something positive, or he is being complimenting me, right, and I'm like denying it, then how does that make him feel? How does that affect him? Also, in another way that like self-doubt shows up in my marriage is just again, like, it's my insecurity, but it's in a way of like, I told y'all before, like genuineness, like whether or not that person is being genuine, and whether or not I'm being genuine. And we talk about, wanting people to love you, flaws and all. And the reality is that, was I showing up as my most authentic self? I can say now I am, right? Because now I'm comfortable in saying to my husband, like, "You know what, I don't feel like the other day when I was saying that I was feeling imposter syndrome, I feel comfortable now saying to him, like, I feel, imposter syndrome is coming up for me. And whether or not he understands it or not, you know, what that does is that if that was already in the back of my mind, if he said something about like, hey, so when are you supposed to be launching this program, right? Guess what it would come out as? It would come out as frustration because now I'm already having imposter syndrome. I hear that it's crazy, right? But I know I'm not by myself. But I hear that is like a negative, right? And so then what is my reaction is to be on the defensive and be like, I don't know, catch a whole attitude, like, you asked me about this and I'm gonna do it when I do, and then it's like, I was asking the question, like, when are you launching it? But the reality is that I know that it's the imposter syndrome that for me, like my insecurities are showing up. So instead of that turning into an argument, I know now to be able to go to him and be able to be like, you know what, today I did X, Y, and Z, and then my imposter syndrome showed up, and I was just and now he asks questions like, well, what is your imposter syndrome telling you? And I'm just like, it's just telling me I don't know enough, and I'm not qualified to do this. And he's like, so now he's asking questions like, because some of it is that he don't get it, right? He don't really understand, but he's listening to me to know that, okay, something is bothering her enough that A, she's coming to talk to me about it, but B, whatever that is. And so sometimes just talking to him to be able to just like tell him, it's like, well, well, sometimes just talking to him and telling him how I feel releases some of that insecurity, but also it makes me feel safe, right? To open up to him, and it makes me feel comfortable being able to share certain things with him. Somebody mentioned in the clubhouse the other day that a lot of times that our uncomfortability comes from people using that thing against us, right? You get in an argument, and then your dude saying something to you, or you, like, we do the same thing, right? They say something to us, and then we popping off at the mouth with, that's the reason why you blah blah blah. And it's like, I did not give you that as ammo, right? um and some of that comes from previous relationships, or just things that you've seen around you, or like how other relationships have been displayed. But with all that being said, the whole purpose of recognizing how self-doubt shows up in your in your relationships and in your marriage, is so that you can correct it. You know what I'm saying? The whole, like, this whole identification thing is so that I can get to the place that I was at this week, where I could go to him and I could be vulnerable and not be worried about whether or not he's going to look at me different, whether or not he's going to judge me, whether or not he's going to think I ain't doing enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, even again, he's never said it. Even if that's how he feels, he's never said it to me. So I'm in essence, I'm putting my thoughts onto him. And something someone said to me the other day, as they were talking about it, was like, that's stressful for the other person, that you are adding additional like they're carrying something that they're not meant to carry, right? Like that insecurity, that stress, it could be draining. And it really made me think to myself, like, dang, you know what, I never even thought about him in this situation. Like, how much easier would it be for me to just tell you what's wrong with me, right? Versus forcing you to figure it out, me being all defensive and arguing, and it turns into something unnecessary, right? Instead of me just telling you, this is what I'm struggling with today, this is the area that I'm not feeling my best self right now, and whatever it is that he may need to say to me, or whatever it is I may need, then I ask for what I need, right? And then that builds the trust, it builds it builds the genuineness and the authenticity that I need to be able to be my full self. And so, if that's something that you have struggled with, or you're still struggling with, I'd love to hear from you, as always, you guys. I keep telling y'all that. Whether or not, you can email me, info@FeliciaWallace.com, or you can DM me and just let me know, like, what other ways have you worked through your self-doubt? If you're in it, or you've actually worked through it, what ways have you done that within your marriage and within your relationships? Like, when it shows up for you, how do you handle it? Because that is the next thing, right? Like, I'd love to have some other ideas, like, this is what works for me, like actually talking to him and telling him exactly how I feel, that is what that helps me. But I love to know if you guys have any other ideas or anything that anything that you do that would I could just benefit from, and I'd be willing to share it with the, if you don't mind, I'll share it with the audience on the next episode, to let them know like some great feedback. So that's all I had for today. I hope this series of like self-doubt in your relationships have been helpful. As always, remember, you can catch me on Clubhouse on Sundays and Wednesdays. Remember to join the wait list for the group coaching if you are interested in walking through the steps of identifying your self doubt on a more intimate level with me and with other like minded women. And yep, until next week, see ya.